Hello to all of you. I'm Azar Alizadeh, and this program is sponsored by Metropolitan Christian Council from Detroit and Windsor. And we are very happy that you are watching us. You know, this program is so important because the other day I was in a restaurant and a lady came over and thanked me and said, "This program changed my life." I said, "Oh, wow." She said that her daughter a couple years ago started dating a Hindu gentleman, and she was very scared and worried about a Christian girl married the Hindu gentleman. But after watching this program, her fears gone. She is giving lots of respect to that young man, and they are getting married this summer. So I'm very happy about that. Let me introduce my panelists to you, and they are Mr. Gupta from the Hindu religion.
Thank you. I'm more than happy you.
Dr. Richard Thomas from the Baha'i religion. We have Mr. Jerry Cleland from the Native American. Reverend Dr. Alice Patterson from the Christian religions, and Reverend Ventline from the Christian religion. Thank you to all of you, and it's wonderful to see you. Well, the topic today is a testing here. We want to test your knowledge about Old Testament, and I know some of you maybe don't know very much about Old Testament. Here is the problems about new research and in many different ways that is kind of against what in Old Testament is reading. And so we want to know what you think, and some of the callers wanted to know what you think about Old Testament and all this new knowledge and research that we have. And we're going to start with Reverend Ventline.
Well, there's so much in the Hebrew Scriptures, or the Old Testament, that we refer to that really paves the way for what we call the Christian Scriptures that emerge, around 40 A.D., in the year of our Lord, and the latest of the Gospels of John around 100. But the Psalms, for example, the 150 Psalms, for me, provide so much consolation. I mean, because the Psalms really are prayers or praise that tell about the feelings of all of humanity. I mean, the feelings of mad or sad or scared or glad, or any variation of the human feelings. And so then there's also the Book of Lamentations, for example, which are also laments, feelings being expressed by God's people. And you have prayer, of course, whether it's Job, the whole story of Job's problems there, his suffering. And so I take great delight in the Hebrew Scriptures because of the stories. The Exodus event, for example, the oppression of the people. I mean, in our own day, I think so much of people that are attached to drugs or alcohol and are looking for deliverance once they begin to admit that I have this problem and get out of their denial. But I oftentimes like to make that link with the Hebrew book of Exodus with the current problems of our own day. And then, of course, the what we call the first book of Genesis. We have the whole beginnings of sin, Adam and Eve, their story, the story of crossing boundaries, and crossing boundaries is a problem in our own culture these days, for so many. So all of the Scriptures, Exodus 15 deals so much with the whole aspect of healing. And of course, much of the much of the law, God's law of love, comes from the Hebrew Scriptures. Deuteronomy 5 and Exodus 40 have to do with the Ten Commandments or the tablets or the laws. You know, there's a rabbi that we work with in the All Faiths Festival who always says, you know, I don't know why anybody would want to become a Jew. We have 700 laws, and you Christians just have 10. You know, and they're reduced to 2. You know, love God and love neighbor. So there's so much that of the Old Testament Hebrew Scriptures that influences our culture, let alone the New Testament or the Christian Scriptures.
Thank you, Reverend. Reverend Patterson, you tell us about Old Testament.
If I can add anything to Reverend Ventline, I do notice when stories are done about discoveries of, like recently there was one about Noah's Ark that they thought they had found, but more than likely not. And it's fascinating. It's a fascinating dichotomy because I like watching those stories and I want them to find something, even though the finding something doesn't increase the faith. So it's interesting watching the archaeological finds and how they do, in many cases, relate to what the Bible says. I have on a couple of occasions watched the Dead Sea Scrolls, or a film called The Enigma of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which tells the whole story of how they were found, and it is an amazing story. So even without looking in the Old Testament, that story, just the travel that they made from that one cave all the way now to the museum and the small little pieces, that it had to be something more than man that put that together, and it ended up as our Old Testament. Sometimes when I'm teaching and I talk a lot, the stories are so interesting that I tell people you don't need to watch the soap operas or those crime shows. All you have to do is read the Old Testament because there's so much in there. Some of the stories make us very sad because of the sins and some of the what people had to pay for the sins that they committed. But there's a direct connection to our New Testament, and so in that there's hope. I do talk to preachers who don't preach out of the Old Testament because of the fact that it's a law and we believe in grace, but there's a connection. And I kind of try to bring it to people to say that in the Old Testament, the sacrifices that they made, the animals that they took, that when we got to the New Testament, it was a greater sacrifice. And for us, that means we have a greater duty to follow the law. We don't get out of the Ten Commandments because we got out of grace. We still, because we're now under grace, we still have to follow them, and we have to follow them with a greater duty because there was a greater love in the sacrifice that was made in the New Testament. And so it really informs our faith a lot, and there's ways that you can take the Old Testament and compare it to the New, because that's really what it does. Prophesy, forecast what's going to happen in the New, and you tie it together. And even the Old Testament brings you hope if you do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Reverend. Now, Mr. Jerry Cleland, you tell us about Old Testament.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you, but I'm not a, let's say, a scholar on that. Although with television, I think everybody is aware of a lot of the Christian teachings because there's so many specials on, and they're very good. I enjoy history. But it does relate to us in a general way. They were saying that prayer and the healing of the body, because when you heal the body, you also heal the spirit. They go together. They're not separate. You see, and our people now in this modern time have run on to a pitfall of temptations. Let's say. A great deal of people have more money than they've ever had, and they can fan them in their mind. But with that comes along a great responsibility of using it in a good way. And if you don't, then you have to pay. I was just saying, talking about our health. And if you get too extreme with anything, it hurts you. And it also hurts not only the body, but it hurts the spirit too. And that's why when we have ceremonial times, which comes up in a couple weeks, where we recall again that we have to go, when we enter that lodge, you have to step down and bow in. You have to go down and in, because you are in the presence of something special. As man, we walk around, we have the new tuxedo and all this kind of thing. But when you come there, no. And I take off my shoes and I wear moccasins, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to step on the earth very gently. And you're supposed to humble yourself. See? We have to be humble. We can't be proud, no matter what credentials we have. At that particular time, now you're looking into the face of the Creator in a way. And you have to humble yourself. And you also come that time to regenerate your spirit. And when you regenerate the spirit, it also helps your body. And hopefully we help the whole community. And this new renewal that we have in the spring, and we have it in the fall when we close up that gate, now we'll open it up. We'll open up that time when everything comes new and the earth renews itself. We can only do so much, but the newer generation, they're rushing on, and I understand that. But I have to stand fast, and the gentlemen who stand with me, and give that good example. Sometimes it's not easy to do certain things. It's very easy. If you want to have a crowd of friends, you just throw a party. You got more friends than you knew you ever, boy, you're a wild and crazy guy. But I'm not that way, and sometimes you do find people that say, maybe I'd like to join you. I'd like to. And when you get just that one, as we've said before, I learned this from a good deacon friend of mine. He said, Jerry, God only deals in the mathematics of one. See, he only sends one man. In the greatest story ever told, what did he do? He could send an army. He sent one man. And so again, as I say, I'm the messenger. I'm only one, but I have a few friends. And so, thank you.
Very good. You related your things to Old Testament, which is good. Now, Dr. Richard Thomas, you tell us about your relation with Old Testament.
I think that those of us who come from a Judaic Christian background cannot escape the influence of the Old Testament. Growing up in the Baptist church in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, the influence of the Old Testament was always quite evident. And then as a historian, you cannot study the religious evolution of African Americans, and most certainly of the slaves, without looking at the influence of Old Testament symbolism and teachings and what have you. How the slaves and the freedmen during those antebellum years related to the stories of the Old Testament. In fact, they played such an important role in their lives that probably no other people in America during that period of time incorporated Old Testament symbolism in quite the same way in their struggle for freedom. And so that's something that has been etched in the religious history of African Americans for many years, most certainly in the 19th century. As a Baha'i, and I mentioned earlier about the importance of progressive revelations in Baha'i history. You cannot talk about progressive revelations in the Baha'i faith without going back to Abraham and Moses and to those great, prophets and minor prophets in the Old Testament. Baha'u'llah talks about the importance of Abraham teaching the unity of God in an environment that was polytheistic. You see, in that contribution, he talks about the importance of Moses. You see, and the contributions that he made to the history of progressive revelation. And so we owe a great deal most certainly Christians and Muslims and Baha'is, to the spiritual legacy of the Old Testament.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Gupta, you tell us your relations or how you can put this together between Hindu and Old Testament.
Yes, regarding Old Testament and our Hindu scriptures, Vedas, I myself have not gone much through the Old Testament, but still I have read one paragraph, and a book has been written by a Chief Justice of one of the states in India. That is, that book is Fountainhead of Religion, a comparative study of principal religions of the world, right from the Zoroastrianism, because we mostly talk Jews, but before Jews there were Zoroastrianism, and their book was Zendavesta.
Yeah.
And then Judaism, their book is Genesis, as mentioned now. And the third is Christianity, the book is Bible. And the fourth is Mohammedans, the book is Quran. So all these relations with Hinduism, because they are the oldest. So definitely there is some similarity in all. And I only know that one paragraph which he wrote in this book, just 3-4 lines. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. This is by Sermon on the Mount, and this has been declared by Jesus. So you can imagine how much the gist of all Old Testament or morality you can call in those 10 commandments. Because we have also got 10. In Buddhism also, in Jains also. We call 5 restraints and 5 are observances. So all these 10 are similar to those. We call, the first thing is declaration of one God. That is the first important thing which is in Bible as well as in Old Testament. So we have also, we are daily reading 1 or 2 verses of Vedas, and that is Ekam Sadvipra Bahuda Vadanti. Means God is one and only one, but wise men call them differently because of the attributes of God, characteristic of God. So that is one God. And similarly, love thy neighbor, truth, celibacy, and no adulteration. And there are 2 very important things which we differ in amendments. Not differ, but there is an extension of that. There it has been said no killing. But no killing, ahimsa we call it, non-violence. It includes the non-violence of thought, word and deed. We are not to kill any animal because they have got also the same soul which is inside us. Where there is blood, we are not to kill that. And where there is juice, we are ready to accept that. And the second is sacrifice, which Dr. Rice was just saying. So sacrifice, according to Hindus, we call it yajna. Means we are to sacrifice our own animal instincts. So it's not that sacrificing of animals. When you sacrifice an animal, what you have done yourself, you have not do anything. So you are to have control over your inside desires of just like animals. You are to have control and sacrifice so many things for others. Then only you can be selflessness. And so no non-covetousness. All these things are just like common. So really we enjoy so many other stories also. I've gone through 5 chapters of Old Testament and through Bible also sometimes.
Interesting.
But these are the important things which we must propagate, at least through our religion meetings and interfaith meetings, that we are really have some similarities and less other things.
Yeah. Well, if I am, if I understood it right, Old Testament was written for 1,000 years. That's what I read as 1%. So it took 1,000 years to be Old Testament written.
Over.
So we are talking about, of course, lots of stories, mostly fairy tale type of stories, for the people at that time that they didn't have themselves, they didn't know how to probably read. And so there was stories after stories for them to get to understand the good things in humanity, or doing good things rather than bad things. So when they are talking about that there are a lot of evidence of things that they found in research that is against what we read in the Old Testament, I wonder if that has something to do, because it took 1,000 years to write that Old Testament. So is it really a pure things we are reading? I'm asking you to. We don't have rabbi here.
You know, well, we talk about the scriptures, the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, as and the New Testament for that matter, as one library between two covers. The sacred scriptures are a library of books with, as you said, truths for sure, with history, some history, with revelations, of course, which is very picturesque, and with. But the most important piece of it is that the scriptures contains truths for us, given to us as truths to try to live our lives. Genesis, tells us of Adam and Eve, who wanted to be God, where they stepped into that realm where they were not supposed to. They crossed boundaries, as we do in our own lives. As you've been reading about priests, who have crossed boundaries with children. And I'm very mindful of the New Testament that says, better that you put a stone around your neck and drown yourself if you scandalize one of these little ones, one of these most vulnerable. So the Scriptures is just a wealth of faith. It has to be read in a perspective of faith, for the truth to be lived out in us humans.
Did Jesus Christ changed anything from the Old Testament to the New Law?
Oh, sure. Jesus said, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And of course we quote Mahatma Gandhi, who said, if we go around plucking out everybody's eyes, we'll all end up blind, which seems to be the case. But Jesus said, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What I say to you is, love your enemies. Do good to those who
offered his cheek.
Yeah,
to give, to forgive, and so there's constant linkages.
So there is, with each prophet there are some changes because the times are necessary to change that.
In one line she has said wonderful words.
Yeah.
Old Testament is a book of law, and the New Testament is a book of grace.
Okay.
And Jesus enhances what was given to us in the Old Testament, so that whatever you do, if it's not undergirded by love, so you can't really do eye for an eye, because you need that love portion to come along with whatever you're going to do based on the New Testament sacrifice and the New Testament laws. So I guess you could see it as a change, but not really. And then, of course, anything that comes out of an oral tradition, I think of even the fact that many of us saw the U of M speech that the president did. If I told you what I heard and you told me what you heard, it's not going to be exactly the same. Yeah. But as Reverend Bentline said, the truth of the matter will still be the same. And so though it may not be word for word what happened, and even when we study it, we have books that say one manuscript says this and one says this, and they may be 100 or several hundred years apart, but the basic truth of what was said is still there. So that sometimes actually gives us more food to be able to preach from or teach from. Just this past week, I did a text that in one rendering the word is strength, and in one rendering the word is praise. So, but the basic truth of what that scripture was saying was still the same. And so we're still able, though it may not be word for word how it began in that oral tradition, to make it mean what it was originally intended to mean. So we believe that the truth is there, and man's fallibility, even though the word comes through the Spirit, is that we can't remember everything, and we're not going to, it's like playing password. By the time it gets from this end to that end, something may have changed in the wording.
And
but
that's
the
why
basic meaning
maybe
is there.
so many different branches started. Am I right? Because, again, things are changed.
And so many different translations. So that when they find older manuscripts, then you go back and you get a new translation that updates some of what you saw at first.
Well, great.
And also there are 6 billion people around in this universe. They have got the same structure, the same emotion, the language difference, and the color of the
Very
skin.
good.
So how you can say that their
Thank
God
you
is
so
different?
much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you, even though we missed our rabbi here, but we made it. So I hope if you have any question, we will be glad to discuss about this. Have a nice day, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.